Once upon a time, nestled in a quiet, sun-dappled meadow, lived a little mouse. His name was Pip, and he was a country mouse through and through. His home was a cozy burrow beneath the roots of a grand old oak tree, and his days were filled with simple joys. He'd scamper through fields of golden wheat, nibble on sweet wild berries, and listen to the gentle rustle of the leaves. Life was peaceful, predictable, and very, very safe. Far away, in a bustling, noisy city, lived another mouse. This was Pip's cousin, Remy, the town mouse. Remy's world was a whirlwind of excitement. He lived in a grand mansion with endless corridors and a kitchen that was a paradise of forgotten feasts. Instead of wheat grains, Remy dined on crumbs of decadent cake, slivers of sharp cheese, and drips of sweet, sticky jam. His life was a thrilling adventure, full of delightful discoveries and narrow escapes. One sunny afternoon, Pip was gathering seeds when a letter arrived, carried by a friendly swallow. It was from Remy. "My dear cousin Pip," it read, "I long to see you. I've packed a small bag and will be visiting you in the countryside. I can't wait to see how you live. Your adventurous cousin, Remy." Pip was overjoyed. He hadn't seen Remy in ages. He immediately set to work, tidying his burrow and preparing the finest meal he could offer. He gathered the plumpest grains of corn, the sweetest red beans, and a handful of crunchy, delicious acorns. He wanted everything to be perfect for his city-dwelling cousin. A few days later, Remy arrived, looking a little dusty from his journey, but as dapper as ever in his tiny city coat. "Pip, my dear friend," he squeaked, giving his cousin a warm hug. "It's so ... green out here." Pip proudly led him to his burrow. "Welcome, Remy. I've prepared a feast for you," he announced. He presented the simple, wholesome food on a clean, flat stone. Remy sniffed at the corn and poked a bean with his whisker. He nibbled politely, but his expression was one of clear disappointment. "Pip," he began gently, trying not to offend his host. "Is this ... Is this really what you eat every day? Just grains and beans?" Pip nodded, his enthusiasm fading slightly. "Well, yes. It's fresh and very tasty," he said. Remy sighed dramatically. "Oh, my poor dear cousin. You have no idea what you're missing. In the city, oh, in the city, the food is magnificent. We have mountains of cheese, rivers of cream, and cakes as tall as toadstools. You're living such a meager existence here. You must come back with me. I'll show you what real living is all about." Pip had never thought of his life as meager. He loved the fresh air and the quiet safety of his home. But Remy's words sparked a flicker of curiosity within him. Mountains of cheese, rivers of cream. It sounded like a dream. "Is it truly that wonderful?" he asked, his eyes wide. "More wonderful than you can possibly imagine," Remy declared. "Pack your things. We leave at dawn for the city. Your life is about to change forever." Hesitantly, but with a growing sense of excitement, Pip agreed. The countryside had been his whole world, but maybe, just maybe, Remy was right. Maybe there was a better life waiting for him. Their journey to the city was an assault on Pip's senses. The quiet hum of the countryside was replaced by a deafening roar of carriages and crowds. The sweet smell of wildflowers gave way to a strange mix of smoke, food, and thousands of people. Pip huddled close to Remy, feeling small and overwhelmed. "Don't worry," Remy chirped confidently. "You'll get used to it. Now, follow me. Our palace awaits." Remy led Pip through a maze of alleys until they reached the back of a colossal house. They squeezed through a tiny crack in the wall, and suddenly Pip gasped. They were in a kitchen larger than any meadow he had ever seen, and the smell, it was intoxicating. A huge wooden table stood in the center, and it was a landscape of leftover luxury. There were half-eaten loaves of crusty bread, glistening jars of jam, a whole platter of exotic fruits, and right in the middle, a glorious golden wheel of cheese with a few wedges already cut. "See," Remy said, puffing out his chest with pride. "What did I tell you? This is the life. No more scrabbling for tasteless seeds. Here we feast like kings." Pip's eyes were as round as buttons. He had never seen so much food in his entire life. It was more than he could eat in a year. His fears and doubts melted away, replaced by pure, unadulterated awe. It's incredible, Remy," he stammered. "Come on, let's not just stand here staring," Remy urged, scrambling up a table leg with practiced ease. Pip followed, his heart pounding with excitement. They scurried across the vast wooden surface towards the magnificent wheel of cheese. Remy took a big bite. Divine," he mumbled through a full mouth. "Try it, Pip." Tentatively, Pip nibbled at the edge. A burst of rich, savory flavor exploded in his mouth. It was the most delicious thing he had ever tasted. He forgot all about his simple beans and grains. This was truly living. They were just about to dive in for a second bite when suddenly, boom, the kitchen door flew open with a deafening crash. A monstrous shadow fell over the table. Standing there were two gigantic creatures. One was a cook with a furious face, and the other was a huge, terrifying cat with eyes like glowing green lamps and claws as sharp as needles. "Mice," the cook bellowed. The cat let out a fearsome yowl and leaped onto the table. Terror seized Pip like a cold hand. He was frozen in place, his wonderful piece of cheese forgotten. "Run!" screamed Remy, snapping Pip out of his trance. The two mice scrambled for their lives, the cat hot on their heels. Its claws scraped against the wood just inches behind Pip's tail. They skidded across the tabletop, dodged a mountain of a bread loaf, and leaped into the darkness below. They landed with a thud and scurried blindly until they found a tiny, dark hole in the wall. They squeezed inside, their hearts hammering against their ribs, their breaths coming in ragged gasps. They could hear the cat sniffing and pawing at the entrance, its angry meows echoing in their hideout. They huddled together in the dark, trembling, waiting for what felt like an eternity. Finally, the sounds of the cat faded away. The kitchen grew quiet again. Remy, trying to sound brave, peeked out. "All clear," he whispered, his voice shaky. That was a close one, but Pip couldn't stop shaking. The delicious taste of cheese was gone, replaced by the bitter taste of fear. He looked at Remy, his eyes filled with a new understanding. "Remy," he said, his voice barely a squeak, "your feasts are magnificent, and your house is grand. But is it always like this?" Living in constant fear, Remy looked away, unable to meet his cousin's gaze. "Well," he admitted quietly, "one must be on one's toes. There are certain risks involved with the good life." Pip shook his head slowly. He thought of his cozy burrow under the oak tree, the gentle rustling of the wind, and the simple, safe meals he enjoyed without a care in the world. There were no cats there, no angry cooks, no sudden dangers lurking around every corner. "My dear cousin," Pip said softly, but with firm resolve, "thank you for showing me your world. The food is truly wonderful, but this life is not for me. I would rather eat my simple beans and grains in peace than feast on cake and cheese in constant terror." He looked around the dark, cramped hole. "I am going home. Home to my safe, quiet countryside." Remy was silent for a long moment. He looked at his cousin's earnest face and understood. He knew Pip was right, at least for him. The thrill of the city was what Remy craved, but the peace of the country was what Pip needed. The next morning, as the first rays of sun lit up the city, the two cousins said their goodbyes. "Take care of yourself, Remy," Pip said, giving him a hug. "You too, Pip," Remy replied. "Enjoy your peace and quiet." Pip made his way back to the countryside. When he finally saw his grand old oak tree in the distance, a wave of relief washed over him. He scurried into his burrow, took a deep breath of the clean, earthy air, and smiled. He had never felt so happy to be home. From that day on, the two mice remained the best of friends, writing to each other often. But they each stayed in the place where they truly belonged, one living a life of thrilling adventure in the city, and the other a life of simple, peaceful happiness in the country. And both, in their own way, were perfectly content.